Hey guys, this is Mark Howard, author of the Griffin Legends. Thanks for joining me here today. So, I came across this post on Facebook not long ago talking about one of our favorite fantasy books of all time, The Lord of the Rings. And this post was talking specifically about the Battle of Helms Deep and how in this battle, right, there's some big changes in the Peter Jackson film adaptation versus what Tolkien himself initially wrote. Now, this post was arguing that the Peter Jackson changes were actually a good thing, right? Most notably, how we add in a whole bunch of elves to help fight this battle, right? Initially, when Tolkien wrote this battle, there's no elves at Helm's Deep. There's just 2,000 some odd men, if I'm remembering correctly, versus an army of 10,000 orcs, Uruk-hai, wild men of Dunling, etc., right? So, in my mind, this change is perhaps one of the most significant changes between Tolkien and Jackson. There's other really important changes out there, but in my mind, this one sticks out the most, not just because it shortens things to make it a little bit more condensed for the movie, or to make it a little less confusing by adding in a whole bunch of minor characters that aren't ever seen again. Sorry, Glorfindel, you just can't ever seem to make the cut no matter who's in charge of making a movie. But here it's actually a change that adds something, right? It doesn't take away, it doesn't shorten, it doesn't simplify. It adds something that was not there in the books. And so by adding something, we are then changing not just the events, but we're even changing the theme, right? So, in the Peter Jackson adaptation, when the elves show up at Helm's Deep, they say that we are here to honor the last alliance, right? I'm paraphrasing here. Where, there was an alliance between men and elves in the distant past, and now we're here to honor that alliance. You can rely on the friendships you had before, and we're all going to see this through together, right? Very touching. I think that's a sentiment that rings true to a lot of us today, right? We live in a very divided world where there's a lot of us versus them kind of sentiments, and it's up to us to try to find that common ground when so many other people want to divide us. However, that's not what Tolkien wrote. In fact, Tolkien, in the Battle of Helm's Deep, he talks a little bit about why the elves and the dwarves can't be there. And it's a very minor mention, right? But he talks about how the elves and the dwarves can't come to help out the men at Helm's Deep, of course, with the exception of Legolas and Gimli, who happen to be there with Aragorn. But you don't see a big army of these elves or dwarves or whatever show up because they are too busy dealing with Sauron's armies on their own home turf. And so the message there, rather than, hey, rely on your friends, is instead, men have to stand up for themselves. You can't just sit on your thumbs and hope that someone comes to the rescue, right? If you want to do something about the evil in your day, you've got to be the one to stand up and do it. And I think that's also a powerful message. And it's one that is very much in line with, the generation that saw Hitler rise to power and saw World War II happen, right? It was a very, one of these so-called lessons of World War II is that evil is allowed to do what evil does simply because good men don't try to stop it, right? So I think both of these messages can be really powerful. And I think both of these could be fitting for the Lord of the Rings here. So anyway, what do you guys think? Is it ultimately a good thing that Peter Jackson added the elves into the Battle of Helms Deep? Or do you think that, hey, maybe the original was better? Maybe there's something to this idea that we see a lot of bad things happening in the world, and if you want to see the bad things stop, maybe you should be the one to try to do something about that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts here. Please feel to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we will see you next time.